Oh, hi guys, sorry. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction because I feel like I'm also new to the group. So after university, I was playing cricket. I played 5 years. Yeah, I played 5 years at Oxford, MCC University, British universities, and then I went on to play for Northamptonshire and then the national team of Uganda. As you can see, I stand out quite nicely in the team. So then after university and playing cricket, I joined the family business, which is a chain of aesthetic clinics where we do Botox and fillers and all that sort of stuff. And we've got an academy where we teach people to do that. And we ended up with clinics from Knightsbridge through to Bangkok. And then off the back of that, we launched our skincare range, and we're on our 4th generation of skincare range, and we're now launching in the UAE as well. Not looking to do Amazon just yet with that brand, but potentially after what you talk about later, I might consider it. And then we started 8 years ago with a human performance business. Hello, mate. My background obviously is in sport, and my co-founder is Imperial trained medic like Saurabh. So he's a doctor, and we started a human performance company where we do healthcare products basically. And then we're looking to launch a Amazon managed services company this year as well to take brands that are on Shopify in the UK and take them pan-European with Amazon as well. And now I've also, alongside those things, I've started as the head of marketing for one of the largest perfumery companies in the world, and I'm running all their B2C marketing for their portfolio company in the UK, and these are some of the brands, and our products are in Harrods, Buckingham Palace, Houses of Parliament, and things like that. So I'm running the social media, the digital, and the marketing for sort of all of those brands.
When do you find time to sleep?
I did. I'm one of those badgers that absolutely love social media and marketing and all of that, so it's just part of my day. And I also have a marketing agency alongside that where we work with, I work with a high-end interior company. No, that's not me. That's not me.
As all Indians should be.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got a property tech company there, osteopath, high-end interiors, fashion brands and all that sort of stuff. And this is my co-founder who's a doctor, and we got him from never making content to 250,000 TikTok followers in 18 months and TED Talks and brand deals and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I basically help influencers build infrastructure behind themselves. I help small businesses scale through full marketing systems. The amount of agencies that basically say, oh, I'll get you all of these leads, but actually in the real world, leads mean absolutely nothing unless they can translate into revenue. So I help build all that marketing collateral for these companies and hopefully build revenue for them rather than just say, oh, I get you 50 leads. No one cares about. And then I help people become influencers, or influencers scale to a lot more across different platforms. Now, I thought I would talk about my 2025 predictions rather than what's necessarily working really well right now. I want to talk about things that are sort of the start of the curve. I know a lot of you might be doing UGC or have utilized UGC. I feel like, on socials, everybody back in the day wanted to do highly produced stuff. Everybody's feed looked like a magazine. Then people were like, my walls are up now that I know that everything is an ad. Then UGC came along, but now everybody kind of knows, the audience know that UGC is actually an ad, basically. So people have got their guard up against that. And what we're seeing, unfortunately, is EGC take over, employee-generated content and founder-led content. And I say unfortunately, because most founders don't want to make content, most employees don't want to make content, and it's quite long-winded to actually make content consistently. I think the brands that are doing really well on the start of this curve view themselves as content houses now. They have it all in. Look at what Ryanair's doing, it's fantastic. Look at what Currys are doing recently, it's so good. Currys is a great example of what they're doing. So I think, and also, it's very hard to fake it. A lot of people can fake UGC, obviously. A lot of people can fake this sort of ad style content, but EGC, when you're producing a lot of content from your employees, and especially founder-led content, it's a lot harder to fake. And I feel like people really care about the companies that they're buying into. So culture is generally set top down, and it trickles down. So over a long period of time, if you see what the founders are doing and what they stand for, there's a lot of distrust, and you're more likely to trust people. So yeah, 65% of consumers say that brand CEOs, employees influence their decision to buy. I think that number will go up and up and up. There's a lot of sort of corporate distrust nowadays, and I think the founder-led content, especially for people in this room, will be good long term. Again, with AI, I think AI was if we were having this talk a year ago, I would say really utilize AI. If you look at what LinkedIn looks like now, it's just ChatGPT on ChatGPT on ChatGPT, and ChatGPT basically creates content off the back of copies of other content, which is off the back of copies of other content, and people are like, I've seen this format, I've seen this length of content, I've seen this type of imagery before, and people are just getting very, very bored of it. Again, that's why I think founder-led content and having that voice will be really good moving into the year. Again, yes, you can train ChatGPT to sound more and more like you, but again, I think there's not a lot of longevity to that. Human beings like variety, and it's a pain in the ass just to teach ChatGPT to do that. You might as well do it yourself. Yeah, people want to get to know the folks leading organizations that matter to them. Again, I think there was that trend towards sort of small business owners, and everybody likes to say small business owners, as much like clapping for the NHS during COVID. It's a bit of a token gesture, but I think moving forward, this will become more and more sort of pertinent. Again, let's look at, if we see what Sora is doing in terms of video generation. If you look at Will Smith eating spaghetti a couple of years ago, it was absolutely terrible. Now it's looking really, really good. Is struggling with like generating hands and stuff like that. Is struggling with things moving across each other. They kind of meld, like cats meld into each other and stuff like that. But sitting here this time next year, you're going to have a lot of content that can be video generated. Again, LinkedIn, it just looks like a joke nowadays for a lot of people. It's just easier to create 250 pieces of content in 3 or 4 days rather than create it yourself. I've seen a podcast recently that was completely AI generated, from scripting through to just the voices and everything like that. And even now we've got models that are doing 10,000 euros a month on Instagram. Somebody else has told me that they've got OnlyFans, AI generated OnlyFans. And again, people are going to get wise to it. I don't understand the people that are signing up to OnlyFans for AI generated things, but clearly there's a market for that. So yeah. I've put an asterisk with this. AI will never replace the authenticity and relatability of personal storytelling. The reason why I put an asterisk next to that is, in the very beginning, people were saying with AI, oh, it's going to take your job, so you should get into the arts, you should get into poetry, you should get into painting and stuff. And then the first thing AI could do is create poetry and stuff like that. So it's all well and good saying about relatability and authenticity, but maybe AI will take over that pretty quickly. Here's our Brian Johnson thing. I think when it comes to social influencers, you guys are using affiliates a lot, and I assume you're using social influencers, but when it comes to reality TV and stuff like that, I think we've seen the life cycle of those influencers play out time and time again. You get somebody with no audience, no business, big audience, no business. They get an agent. Those agents are all with AG1, Element, Boohoo, MyProtein. They all have the same codes. People get rinsed from the same sort of companies, and then they lose their revenue, and then they start their own companies, and then they make a bit of revenue, and then they fall into obscurity, and then the next year the new Love Island people come along, and then the same cycle happens, and the new Love Island people come along, same cycle happens. And I think people are just so sick of it, and they're all peddling the same things. I think we're going to see more and more niche influencers, like people like Brian Johnson in biohacking, things that I'm interested in, like personal finance and investing and all that sort of stuff. Instead of following the big 10 creators, I think people will follow 20 much smaller creators. So when it comes to doing your affiliate deals and stuff like that, the micro influencers, the experts in their field that is a mum of who's been in the industry for 20 years, I think will be where you will go to for recommendations, rather than Molly May, for example. Again, what we have seen is, back in the day, if people followed YouTube, Casey Neistat and people like that used to do long form vlogs and things like that. Again, then it went into retention editing, short form content, and now we've gone full circle back into the sort of less produced long form content. If you look at Sam Sulek's views, he's a big fitness influencer. He's a young guy, he has got pretty much no personality. In terms of in the bodybuilding community, he looks great to us, but he's a pretty average bodybuilder. But look at the views that he gets. YouTube are really focusing on much longer content. And again, no lights, no cameraman, no editing, no script, no set format. I think this is what we're gonna see in 2025. So this is a pretty typical sales flow that a lot of you probably use off of Amazon and Shopify stores and stuff like that. You just throw money at social ads and then they come onto a landing page or a squeeze page where you then take their email by giving them some sort of value, some sort of lead magnet. Then they'll go into your email flow where you will provide a lot of value, and then hopefully they go onto your website again, and then you throw money at retargeting ads. I'm sure everybody in this room has probably been doing this for years, but I feel like this is evolving and has evolved. And this is where founder-led content sort of comes in. And a lot of what people are doing is they're saying, like, you guys are obviously experts in your field, and you'll turn around and then start making content and say, what do I think is wrong with the industry? Say you're in supplements or fashion or the food industry. That then sparks conversation because you're a man on the inside, you're a guy who understands the supply chain and everything like that. Then it gains a form of virality, it builds an audience, and then you can pivot and build a business or a new product line off the back of that. So in supplements, you might have heard of somebody called Chris Gethin. He was the editor of bodybuilding.com. He wanted to leave bodybuilding.com, and then he started looking at branched chain amino acids, which is basically protein that's easier to assimilate in the body. It's not got the full amino acid profile as protein, but anyway, he looked at the supply chain and found that it was all being made in China, and it was all derived from pig's fur and bird feathers. Nobody knew that. So he then made a big thing about it. He sparked controversy. Somebody help me with the word? Well, everybody help me with the word. That gained virality, and then he launched his own branched chain amino acids, which are derived from root vegetables. 5 times the price, but everybody goes, I don't want pig fur and bird feathers. And then he had that sort of market-leading product, and then he's now got a whole company based around it. Is a great example. I'm sure you can all call out things in your industry that probably aren't as ethical as they should be, and then people assume that you are going to be ethical because you've been calling it out, and then they go, oh, I trust this guy. And basically from here on out, I'm going to talk about building trust. So again, in terms of making content, a lot of people, when I talk to them about making content, they often say, I don't know what to make. And content about your journey, lessons, and values remain relevant and can be repurposed over the years. I would argue that the most watched content in the whole of history would be if Jeff Bezos, back in these days, was making a daily vlog. And again, it's evergreen. Talk about your problems, talk about your struggles. And again, you guys are all got really big businesses. Nobody's going to think, oh, he's just some Tim Pot guy doing, selling t-shirts out the back of a car. It's like legitimate issues that you're dealing with, and it will provide value. So why this shift is the future? I think we are really moving towards people over products. Audiences want connection, not just conversion tactics. And I do think that founder-led content does build that emotional bridge. And platforms are evolving. If you look at what's getting big organic reach, you just look at what TikTok is doing, if TikTok isn't banned in America in the next couple of days. Look at what YouTube Shorts are incentivizing, and look at what isn't working on Instagram. It's all very polished stuff that isn't working. And what's really working is people sitting in their cars, people doing their shopping and filming themselves talking about things that are meaningful to them, people sitting in their dressing gown, doing their makeup, cutting their nails, doing whatever while giving genuine thoughts of the day. That's what's doing well. And especially with people that haven't necessarily made content before, just because you guys have got really big businesses doesn't mean you have to have a production studio. It just means you need to be providing value. And that's what people resonate with now in terms of organic reach. You can go viral off your very first video. And trust, as I've talked about, is going to be the new currency. In the world of AI, polished ads, we do crave authenticity and vulnerability. And I do think that the founder often speaks for the values of the company. I think you spoke earlier about people, chanting the mission statement at Google and Facebook before the start of the day. But I think if Zuckerberg and whoever runs Google were talking about things that were meaningful to them, it would give customers a better idea of how those platforms are being run. So how do you build influence and trust? There are 3 things for me: shared interests, shared values, and providing value. And how much do we trust these, for example? We're all business owners here, and we all probably use these common business practices. Interviews. How many times have you interviewed somebody, they've been brilliant, and then 3 months later you think, Jesus, you're shit. Or you've just lied about, whatever, is on your CV. References. You can't even give a bad reference nowadays. CVs, again, probably not worth the paper they're printed on because they don't really give you an insight into what the person is actually like at work. Cover letters, I've seen a lot of recruiters now saying we don't really encourage cover letters. And then LinkedIn, as we've talked about before, LinkedIn is just a whole load of faff. You know, people that change light bulbs will write this much on their LinkedIn about how they've deployed a new lighting system within or whatever. So again, these are all very easy to fake. But what isn't easy to fake is making a bank of content of you talking about things that you find interesting or are meaningful, sharing your interests, sharing your values, and also providing value. Recruiters for the last 5 or 10 years have said they're actually looking at people's Twitter, they're looking at people's Facebook before people are getting hired. And I think Facebook and Twitter is kind of like an emotional snapshot or highlight of people's state in that moment, but it doesn't give tonality, it doesn't give posture, it doesn't give sort of body movements, it doesn't really give much context. I feel like having a bank of video content will be the new sort of word of mouth at scale, especially 2025 and moving forward. So what if I showed you, myself playing international cricket at the same time, building a healthcare brand, building a global aesthetics brand, and scaling this 9-figure perfumery brand at the same time? You would probably trust me a lot more than if I told you it, or if I wrote it on a CV, or if I, did any of the other things that I've mentioned. If I showed you the highs and the lows, I would become a lot more relatable. If I did that over a long period of time consistently, the chances are you would trust me a lot more. So I think these are some of the things for me that would build into trust. Again, we talk about vulnerability a little bit here. It is for some, it is for others, but I can tell you it does work on social. It is getting a lot of organic reach. And the big thing is show, don't tell. Consumers have been told for years and years, this is, our mission. This is what we believe in. This is what we stand for. And we know banks are not doing that. We know property companies are not doing that. It's about showing, not telling. So how does that trust actually help? So I think with influencers, I think gone are the days where you can be a bikini girl on TikTok and dance around and make money off the back of that. I think we are shifting more towards thought leaders, and I think that's why it's so relevant for people in this room. I think people like Gary Vee, Hormozy, PBD, Neville, I think the people that do well in the next year, 2 years, 3 years are the people that use systems similar to them, using their companies as content houses and then being able to get opportunities off the back of that. So yeah, I almost think that their personal brands, arguably by numbers, are bigger than their company's brands. So easy examples. When you think of Tesla, what do you think of? The logo or the man? Yeah. When you think of Virgin, what do you think of? The logo or the man? Do you think of the logo or the man? Josh. When you think of Hawkstone Lager, what do you think of? The logo or the man? Probably the man. So 82% of people are more likely to trust a company when their senior executives are active on social media. Again, I think it's even more true for founders. And what can it do? If you're in a consultancy business, if you're in a service business, it definitely 100% generates leads, and then it will provide commercial value, commercial opportunities, and definitely better ROAS. If you look at, I don't know if anybody's heard of people like Grace Beverly.
We did a collaboration with Grace Beverly, actually.
There you go.
Probably around 4 years ago, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
We did a collaboration with other people who have much bigger followings, and they tagged.
Her engagement is unbelievable, and she did this exact same model where she called out fast fashion, gained virality and all that sort of stuff, pivoted and created a sustainable activewear brand. She did music at Oxford, and then she built a fitness brand, and then she pivoted into sustainable leisurewear. But I saw around a similar time, around 4 years ago, she was showing some ROAS, and this is peak COVID days when everybody was getting great ROAS, we could retarget them, and she was getting like 16, 17. So for every pound she put in, she made 17. And I was like, maybe there is something to this influencer, founder-led brand stuff. Again, speaking opportunities, TV appearances, awards. I know some people have been in this room have been nominated for MBEs and stuff like that. And established audience for new ventures. I don't know what. I think. I don't know whether. Sorry, I don't know whether that was meant to be said or not. Let's just scrap that.
It's not me.
So again, if you're looking to exit or if you're looking to pivot to something completely new, if you've got an established audience of people that trust you, even if it's 5,000 people, that is really, really beneficial. I know brands personally that have got 4,000 followers and make 6 figures a month. It's just about having that level of trust and also having a high ticket item. So now you know why, now you know what's working, how do you go about doing it? Start slow. So here's an example. We're doing 10 talks today, maybe some more, and what I would be doing is, so for example, I'm recording this now, okay? And I will just, no edit, no nothing, I'll just shove it onto YouTube, I will then put a thumbnail onto LinkedIn, and it's as easy as that. Maybe nobody watches it, maybe 5 people watch it, but again, I'm probably building trust. What I would do is I would go out of the room after each talk and send a video to my PA on WhatsApp or an employee, and I would say the most actionable things that I think we should be actioning as a business, do that 10 times during the day. Then you've got 10 short form videos. What I would do then is I would get ChatGPT to transcribe that in my voice, and I would maybe tidy it up a little bit and chuck it onto LinkedIn. So then I've got 10 short form videos, I've got 10 LinkedIn articles, see how they would do, what the engagement would be, pick out the things that have been most actionable in my business, link that together into a longer form video, sit down and go, these are the things that I heard, these are the things I implemented, here's are my results, probably an 8-minute video, chuck that onto YouTube. So from just one day, I would get 10 LinkedIn articles, 1 long form YouTube article, 10 short form social media videos. If you're not confident doing that, it's just about working that muscle consistently. Send it to yourself, send it to your sister, send it to your dog, it doesn't matter. The more you do it, the more confident you'll get. The chances are you'll want to improve your content 1% each time, then you'll get more confident and post it out there. And at the end of the day, the good thing is, in the beginning, nobody's going to watch it, nobody's going to care, but it will be training that muscle consistently. So here's my sort of never-ending content loop framework, which is a whole load of words that basically means ideas of things you can talk about. So again, when we're talking about things that we want to do with our business and want to do with our lives afterwards, some people want to, have a legacy. So create content you want to teach your kids about. Create content you want to teach your kids about business, if that makes sense. I've said that horribly. But yeah, like if you think about what your kids are going to be learning, you think about the things that they're learning in school, how much of it is actually relevant. I did a business degree and the lecturers had never run a business in their life and none of it was based on digital and it was all books that were written about 10 or 15 years ago. So it's about teaching people what is working now. And you guys are all owner operators, so you know exactly what's working now. That's why we're here today. What you wish you knew 24 months ago, again, we've got quite big businesses in the room, so actually it'll be more relevant for sort of more established business owners. And again, you position yourself as an authority in the space and sort of an expert. New things you've learned this week, again, we're talking a lot about tech and stuff like that. Again, you position yourself as a market leader. And again, mistakes you have made and how you would avoid them. I think, again, really, really successful people are people that have often made a lot of mistakes and have been able to pivot really, really quickly. So I've been working with somebody for about 10 years and trying to force him to make more and more content because he is an expert, but he's always worried about never ever being wrong. So if you share your experiences, it's very hard with that kind of context to be viewed as getting it wrong. So again, that just share things that you are going through on a daily basis. And I think it's very hard to argue that in the comments. Now, I have talked a little bit about vulnerability and it may not be something that you want to do, but it is working. This is a guy called Gary Stevenson. He was the #1 trader at Citibank when he was in his early 20s. Again, he went from about 60,000 subscribers on YouTube to I think about 700,000 off the back of one Lad Bible video where he said, he's lost £8 million in a week. Now, the things that you guys are going to talk about are going to be relatively high level. It's going to be obvious that you guys aren't selling t-shirts out the back of a van. So in the same way, it's obvious that he must be some clever, successful person if he's got 8 million to lose of corporate money. So vulnerability leveraged in a proper way actually does really well on socials currently. Another thing is, we're talking about podcasts just now, is start a podcast. Now, everybody who consumes podcasts will think, oh, it's got to be some all singing, all dancing, studio-based podcast. But actually, just make it informal. How many times have you had a conversation with somebody who you like and talk about interesting things and think, damn it, I wish I filmed this, or damn it, I wish I had evidence of this in the future. Just go on Zoom once a week with a head of department or a founder or a CEO or somebody you find interesting and talk about something that you find interesting. Like, it doesn't have to be all singing, all dancing. And you can just start with these 3 questions, like what 3 things are currently working well for your business? What do you hope your industry looks like in 12 months' time? what are the 3 things you wish you knew 6 months ago? And I think this one in the middle goes really well on social media and on YouTube, but especially price predictions and stuff like that. So for example, something that would work really well is if Warren Buffett was asked, where do we think the price of Nvidia will be in 12 months time? Or where do we think the price of Tesla will be in 12 months time? The only issue with that style of content is you set yourself up to fail if it doesn't do that. You know, what's the price of Bitcoin going to be in a year? Everybody says a mil, but you know, it's down at 50K, you're going to look a bit of a fool. Hence why I pivoted the question slightly to what do you hope your industry looks like? Because again, it shows, you know, your values a little bit. It shows, you know, what you're interested in the industry looking like. So if you're a bit wrong, you weren't making a prediction. And I really like this, and it can be a 10-minute thing, a 15-minute thing, but you're just training that muscle to consistently make content. And I think you were talking about rubber ducking earlier in terms of sort of collating your thoughts in your head. And when you make content, you often ramble. And the more and more you make content, it's often around 5 pillars. We call them pillars of content. And it's basically 5 things you find interesting. For me, it's biohacking, health, cricket, fitness, business, entrepreneurship, social media, whatever. And the more and more I talk and make content about it, the more and more succinct my ideas get. If you look at people that go on podcasts, their first podcast, it's a whole load of rambling, all sorts, but they're dialed in after the 10th and 11th time, and you become a much better speaker because you've said it all 100 times. So, throwing out a question to the group, in order to be the top 1% of podcasters of all time, how many episodes do you think you have needed to have made to be in the top 1%?
Top 1% being the number of episodes made?
Yes.
5.
Of all time. 5 podcasts. 20?
7.
7? You guys are killing me here. I was really hoping you'd all say 5,000. Thank you for absolutely ruining my big hitting. But it's 21. Now, how actionable is that? If I asked you to go on Zoom once a week with somebody you find interesting for 15 to 20 minutes, you need to do that once a week for half a year to be the top 1% of all time. Now you can slap that onto your listing and say top 1% of podcasters. But in terms of being actionable, I think that is extremely actionable. So if we're talking about where you see yourself in 5 years, you know, maybe retired on a beach, but I've sat on a few beaches and they do get boring after a certain amount of time. Maybe creating cash flow businesses to pass down to your children, maybe taking a non-exec role, potentially sitting in one of these seats, who knows. But I would argue that having an audience, having trust, building leverage through that audience will make whatever you do after this really a lot easier. And with social, it compounds. Okay, so this is why I think it's relevant to tell you guys now while you're still building. If you look back about what you did 5 years ago, you often forget. Business owners very rarely celebrate the small wins, and even the big wins, we're just on to the next thing, we're on to the next thing. So if you look at emails that you sent 5 years ago, you're like, Jesus, I was stupid, or like, this is the small things we were dealing with back then. So you often forget about it. But if you're making content throughout the journey, it does give a better idea of how you got there. So authenticity is your most precious commodity as a personal brand. Share your journey, not your perfection. I think way too many people are seeing production values go up and they think they've got to be all-knowing and provide all singing, all dancing content. But it's about sharing your journey. It's not high pressured or anything like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 20 years time, everybody has a mini blog because that's how we are going to communicate with people. My family, for example, we have a WhatsApp group where we put in videos about stuff that we're doing or we comment on each other's close friends' stories and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how we start sharing what we're doing, especially on a business front moving forward. So yeah, I hope we've gained some value. If you guys are going to start making content, please send it to me first. I would absolutely love to see it. And if you got any questions about any of that stuff, again, I'm an absolute loser when it comes to this stuff and I talk about it all day long.
So what's your success metric? How do you know you're successful? What are you hoping to be in that? So with the stuff that you're doing.
In terms of
so you're doing a video blog and things like that. So where are you wanting to get to? Are you wanting to get to so many followers? Are you wanting to get to a certain channel?
I don't think followers will matter moving forward, and you guys will all have email lists or MailChimp or Klaviyo or whatever it is. And nowadays we're seeing that, or when you're buying a business, you look at engagement in my opinion, is more valuable than looking at just straight out numbers. I wouldn't be surprised on socials if we started cleaning subscribers off and followers off to get much better engagement. So if you look at Social Blade and you can see people's followers, but you can see their followers versus engagement, I think we'll move towards, especially brands will move towards, as you've mentioned, like going for engagement rather than thingy. So in terms of success metrics for that, it's definitely not, I don't believe it's subscribers moving forward. I would just say, are we seeing extra revenue coming into the business? It's kind of business dependent, isn't it? So if you give me a little bit more.
Well, it's like, so in fact, so for yourself, in 5 years' time, are you hoping to be like a business YouTuber, like, and are you gaming towards that?
I think it brings so much. So I think it'll bring all of the things. Like it'll bring commercial opportunities, but again, I'm not that.
You don't know where.
No, the thing is, you don't know. It's like.
Josh wants you to Warren Buffett yourself and answer how many followers you'll have in 5 years.
Oh, how many followers? I'm at a stage now where I'm making content out of the enjoyment of making content, and generally things tend to happen a lot better when you do that. There's a lot less pressure. There's a big movement around what niche should I be in, but actually now social media marketers are saying you are the niche. If you're really interested in psychedelics or you're really interested in coding or whatever it is, that's the niche. It's you. So that's kind of what you would make content around.
And see where it takes.
And see what it takes you, because it brings it always helps to have an audience of people that trust you.
Oh yeah.
Basically.
In whichever direction you go.
In whatever direction. So it could be I put the long list about better ROAS or commercial opportunities or awards or TV deals. Like if you look at what Gary Neville is doing, I don't follow football, but I seem to follow Gary Neville. He went from playing football, he's got a property empire, he's got hotels, he's now got a football show, he's then on Dragon's Den, and now he's starting to pivot to talk about politics. I wouldn't be surprised if we see, Donald Trump has gone from an entertainer businessman into a politician. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Gary Neville do something very similar, because he's built an audience of people that trust him based off his kind of values. He's built that audience, then he's going to leverage it onto whatever the hell he wants. So I think it gives you so much opportunity. If you come across as really smart and trustworthy, I think that can lead you pretty much anywhere. Right. Sorry, a bit of a convoluted way of answering that question.
I got a question, maybe a bit of a consumer facing.
I think that socials in particular are going to go from entertainment to a little bit more educational. I think our attention spans have been eroded over the last few years with attention editing and short form content, and people are going to go to TikTok and stuff like that for educational based stuff. Now we look at in Australia, social media has been banned for under 16s. I wouldn't be surprised if they introduced something like that similar in the UK and the US, because TikTok has now introduced a STEM category. And if they banned all TikTok and just allowed 16-year-olds to have STEM, I think that's the way it will go. And in terms of where you think you should be posting, the shitty answer is everywhere as much as you can, platform specific. But I would probably say go more casual on LinkedIn video rather than suit and tie, mission, values, and all that sort of stuff. Talk about things that are actually interesting and provide value in a more informal way. I would do that on LinkedIn. I would stay away probably from short form content for now, because what you're going to do is you're going to give value, but you're just going to say, you're going to get a lot of comments of people going, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? You haven't considered this, because you don't have time to give context. So I would almost, as successful business owners, go into longer form stuff, because you can build more trust that way. Yes, you'll build a smaller audience, but it'll be worth much, much more. So if I was going to focus on things, I'd go LinkedIn video, I would go YouTube long form, but work up to it. So for example, doing that Zoom call with somebody, it's automatically long form, and it's just you getting your personality across with somebody you find interesting about something that is interesting. And you don't really have to have much of a personality. I'm not saying that about you, but if you're providing value, you're providing value, and the best bit about it is, because you're not doing all the hacky stuff, you will find an audience that like you for you. So you don't have to, dress up as a clown and, insert, adult jokes or whatever it is that people seem to do in order to get an audience because they think they need to be more interesting. You will get a 400, 500 or 5,000 person audience just by being you. So yeah, long form YouTube, I think, will always have longevity. I think the short form thing is, good for dancing bikini girls on TikTok, but probably, you can funnel people into your podcast and stuff using that, but I wouldn't bother, especially if you're limited with your resources. Sorry, I ramble.
No, thank you.